Hey folks, lyarri here. Today we're reacting to the 40-year-long Dungeons & Dragons game by Wired. It's the Obsessed series.
Remember?
I'm very excited for this, as you can tell. And I also started D&D when I was 11, so that's pretty cool to me. I started online, in forums and stuff, and I was so awful at it. But I always wanted to play it since I was 6 or 8, I think I heard about it. There was this poster of one of the early handbooks in my grandparents' house. Yeah, so I'm so excited for this video, and I just really want to see what it's about and listen to this guy's campaign.
That game of D&D you started when you were 11? What if it never stopped?
My name is Robert Wardoff. I'm a history professor at the University of Western Ontario. I am a dungeon master for a campaign that has been going on for 40 years.
What began in secret with a few friends has turned into a game that takes up much of Robert's life and most of his house. Robert has around 30,000 hand-painted figurines, countless custom-made pieces of terrain, and dozens of devoted
He's gotta be one of those paid DMs.
players taking part in his campaign.
If you're going to keep a game going for 40 years, it's going to have to be a good game. If you're going to have people who are going to want to play and are going to want to fly in, you're going to have to offer a product that is going to be better than all the other alternatives that are out there. I can certainly say with confidence that this is the best Dungeons & Dragons game in the world.
Is it free? That's so much effort.
So if I'm playing for 10 hours a week at 52 weeks in a year, that means if I'm doing that times 40, that would be 20,800 hours.
How many minutes is that?
So if I figured that out in minutes, that would end up being 1.24 million minutes,
The way he talks is just like a dungeon master.
I think.
As you crest the ridge, there seems to be quite a commotion. You estimate it could be as many as 24 or so goblins. You surprise them as much as they have surprised you. I need a surprise roll.
That's really just the start. Almost every major decision in Robert's life is designed to
Thank
keep
you,
the game
Waka7, for
going.
the follow.
When I was buying a house, the most important part for me was
First
getting
react.
a gaming space that I
Alert.
could use. My entire basement is my gaming area.
If he doesn't slow down, he's gonna need a bigger house.
I have a lot of figs. I've got orcs, I've got elves, I've got dwarves, I've got all the basic things that you'd expect, but I also have very distinct and unique figs. I have vampires, I have undead, I have zombies, I have werewolves,
That's so much
beholders,
stuff.
Tiamat,
Oh, yeah,
the
it's
mother
behold-
of all dragons,
I love
all the
beholders.
big demonic lords from the Demogorgon. But also heroes. So all the great kings and queens of countries, the high-level wizards, all of these things. My goal is to have everything.
But what's the point of having so many figurines if you don't have any amazing terrain to place them on?
True. I was gonna say I thought she was gonna say what's the point? It's gonna be to have every. There's so much variety. It's a great campaign.
Robert has no shortage in that department either.
I need to be able to adapt to wherever the party's going to go. That means that I need to have my green terrains. I need to have mountain terrain. I need to have all of my winter terrain, my arid desert terrains, my water terrains. If they're going to go into a town, now I need a town, okay, are they in a Roman town? Are they in an Anglo-Saxon town? Are they in an African town? Is it high medieval? Is it low medieval? So now I'm trying to be able to put out a village or a town for every one of these historical settings.
Garibashi Arena in WoW. Flashbacks, totally different colors.
I can't put figurines on the table unless they are painted up to a certain level. That means that someone's got to do a heck of a lot of painting. And so that ends up being me. If
This dude's literally a Warhammer 40k player.
you found me on an average day working on the game, you'd probably see me in my painting room, and I'm going to be spending 2, 3, 4 hours painting figs.
And do people take their figs home?
No, nobody is allowed to take their figurines home. Nobody is actually allowed to touch the figs on the table. So that's also something that would be different. A person who played Dungeons & Dragons would probably come to my table and they would immediately reach over to grab their fig. I'm probably going to growl at them and tell them, don't touch the figs, because I have to move everything. I'm sure my critics...
See, literally go, probably not.
Would say that there's a god complex going on about that. This here is the figurine of the demon lord Orcus. It's well known to Dungeons and Dragons, and in my campaign 100 years ago, which would be in actual time something like maybe 1989, the group banished this demon. So they thought that's fine. Only recently, last year actually, the demon's back. They don't know where he is. They're desperately trying to find him, and he's definitely up to no good.
While fantasy role-playing and nerd culture are often celebrated today, Robert's campaign started during a time when people felt like they needed to play in secret.
In the 80s and 90s, it was certainly more difficult to try to talk about or explain the game to people. I grew up in a very small town, and it was quite a conservative town. And so the town inevitably found out that we were playing, and they didn't know what the heck we were doing. And Dungeons & Dragons had very bad press at the time.
You bet he really growls. He seems like it. This was during like the, what's the word? Oh, it's about to tell you.
Tonight we begin with a story about make-believe adventure and real-life violence, and what some critics fear is a connection between the two in a game called Dungeons and Dragons.
A movie came out while we were playing called Mazes and...
You know, repeat of like the whole weed thingy, Reefer Madness.
Monsters. And it's a story of how they play this game and then they try to act it out in real life, and basically bad things certainly happen.
Can you tell me of the giant dragon? On my travels here, I heard him.
What's now called the Satanic Panic was going on at the time. Why does my son want to play this game all the time? Why is he obsessed about it? What are you doing to him? Are you a cult leader? I got called a cult leader, a communist, like all these crazy labels. When I watched Stranger Things, it obviously hit home for me.
It is almost here. What is it?
What if it's the Demogorgon? Oh, Jesus, we're so screwed if it's the Demogorgon.
It's not the Demogorgon.
The
Oh
whole
God, I have to
concept
watch Stranger
matched
Things.
exactly
My uncle
what
told
we
me
were
I need
doing
to.
in the early 1980s.
Over the following decades, Robert went on to build a campaign of unrivaled complexity.
One of the things that makes my game unique is the story and the depth of the campaign. My world is an alternative fantasy version of historical Earth within other historical...
He said 2089. Okay. Whoops.
version of historical Earth with then other historical aspects added to it. So if somebody comes
See,
in and...
I know Lord of the Rings. I do not know this. Do I know it? No. Probably gonna say it. I feel like I should.
if
this is Crusader Kings 1.
somebody comes in and they want to go to Athens, I can now bring in that history, philosophy, religion into the game. I'm able to create when I need to create, come up with totally new races, totally new nations, totally new cultures, totally new mythologies, but also to use what the world already has.
A typical dungeon master curates the quest for a handful of players over the course of a few months. Robert, meanwhile, is tracking the adventures of more than 50 players, with story arcs that often span decades.
Since the beginning, there's probably been about 500 characters that have been made and played within the game. When a new player comes in, I'm inviting them to play a game that they're going to be welcome to keep playing until I die. So you could start a character, 9 generations later, that family could take over, let's say, the Roman Empire. On one level, you're playing that individual character. On a macro level, you're also controlling
really
the Roman
cool.
Empire. So there are numerous story arcs that are going on. Many of those last for generations. There's love stories, romances, there's quests, there's vengeance. All these things are happening. So even though there is this large campaign quest, this large ultimate goal, you've got literally thousands of subplots and
How? Surely there has to be so much padding. There's no way.
campaigns going on.
So you were good, game?
From the beginning, Robert quickly learned which rules could be bent and which rules could be broken.
When we started playing, there was probably a short period of time.
That's what, like, in my opinion, that's what like makes like the best DMs. They're willing to like flex things for their players. At least if you're making a campaign like this that is meant for like he has a lot of players, they jump in and out. It's probably like casual, you know?
When I played according to the actual rules, but after that I had to fill in holes, and so I developed my own rule system.
Also, it's a 40-year campaign.
system, and I've never really gone back. So I have what gamers would call a homebrew rule system. And actually, that's how the game was intended. When the game first came out, one of the lines in the Dungeon Master Guide told
I
you
don't
that
know
these are a
anything
set of
about this.
rules, but to apply these loosely. And within my game and my world, there are all kinds of different aspects that you wouldn't see in an ordinary Dungeons and Dragons rule system. My rules are fast, they're quick flowing, people don't have to stop and check things, and that speed of gameplay is something that I find so different in my game from ordinary Dungeons and Dragons.
Robert strives to keep the stakes as high as possible.
My introduction to like real life Dungeons and Dragons, this was actually around when I was 13. But it was like by like this old dude who was like 60, 70, and he played since like second edition or maybe even first, and I think it was advanced. But he was a really cool DM. Like he really like harnessed this guy's energy. He was like a little older, but I really liked him. He really like helped develop my love of the game.
For his players, especially when it comes to life and death consequences for their characters.
I want death to mean something. I don't want this to be like a video game that you simply hit the reset button and you're just going to start a new character. So when your character dies, if you don't have any other characters, then you're out of the game. The game's over for you. And so when characters die or bad things happen, I have seen grown men weep at the table. And that's something also, people who don't play are a bit disturbed if they hear that somebody who's been playing a character for a long time weeps at the table. But I'm trying to create emotion. I'm trying to create excitement. People are scared.
Yeah, it's a 40-year game. Good. It shouldn't just be like, oh, go have that.
Knowing that if you die, you could be out of the game, or that character that you put so much time in is now dead. Obviously, people's heart rates are up. There's emotion going on. So I can't be shocked and surprised when that character dies that there's a show of emotion.
Yeah. I would cry.
I have one daughter, and ever since she was a
But
baby...
like, in my opinion, like, the threat of death and being able to die is so important. And like, it's okay to not have that, but like, for me, it's so nice because it adds this like really good element.
She's been around this. I think maybe when she was 6 or 7 was the first time when she asked...
Wait, is that her daughter? His daughter?
I have one daughter, and ever since she was a baby, she's been around this. I think maybe when she was 6 or 7 was the first time when she asked whether she could play. So she created a character as a fairy, and she still plays now. She's 20 years old. I mean, obviously, there's other stuff going on in her life, but she's been playing all the way through. The interesting thing happens when she starts dating and then her boyfriend wants to play. And of course I have to tell her straight off the go, now this relationship may not last forever, but the game's gonna last forever. So get ready, because I'm anticipating a situation when you break up with him, I can't break up with him. So once I allow somebody to come into the game, I'm never ever gonna stop them from playing the game. So sure enough, that situation happened. And so it can be a little bit awkward at times. But it means a lot to be able to have my daughter play the game and to have her interested in the game. And she obviously knows what the game means to me, for sure. I think there's an assumption
I love like the old VHS tapes here. I probably did not get that right.
We're all going to grow up and we're going to stop playing games. And so people always say, how does your game end? How's it going to end? And it's like, well, my answer is always, how does the world end? How is your world going to end? Well, it's probably going to end when I die. Well, for you it is, right? And so the answer is largely the same. It's much like life. More than anything else, the game represents friendship. And I find that friendship is based on planks. You need something to hold it together. So we may have gone to high school together, but as we go through our lives, unless we have a plank, we're not going to get together. We're not going to fly to see each other. So as long as I can keep doing it, hopefully for all of my life, I won't lose my friends. My basement's my sanctuary. It's a place that I can come and I can almost, as soon as I walk down here, I am in a different world. And it opens up all the doors of creativity. I don't ever intend on stopping playing, on stopping painting, on stopping building, and on stopping bringing my friends together to play the game. I don't ever intend on quitting.
He does seem like he'd be a really great DM. I feel like, I don't know, that's such a good video. It's such an interesting perspective on this guy's life and just like what a really good Dungeons and Dragons campaign can look like. Obviously, a lot of like your typical Dungeons and Dragons campaigns won't look like this because clearly, like, it's just difficult. You need to put a lot of effort into it. But this guy, oh, he's a history professor. I didn't even realize that. I'm blind, deaf. 25 years. Okay, we'll check. Or extremely tedious. If you're into it, and like this guy seems like, as long as, if you're willing to work with your players, and he sounds like a DM willing to work with his players in some sense, like with how his campaign functions, even if that is like a byproduct of how long running it is to some degree. But like this guy's so happy about it. That's cool. True. I would like a full documentary. The guy is so happy about it, just in case you're listening to it, is a lifelong friend. Playing for 25 years. Over. This has over 30 years. Maybe her. Or them. I don't know. Indeed, a bit of a crazy DM. Yeah, part of the allure is having the family triangles and all the stories and all the history. That's... And okay, cool. Lots of room for... He does have lots of room for player co-creation in terms of world building, compelling narrative, series of narratives. Good. Okay, cool. So there's like... It's more like an overarching plot for the universe or the world, I guess. That's pretty good. High drama, interpersonal conflicts, in-game, out of game. And at the end of the day, it's fun. Playing in 1980? I'm sorry, obviously this guy told his entire, like, group about it, but, like, you gotta. Alright, wait, sorry, last thing. This guy taught me in second year, and his daughter went to my high school. Kind of mind-blowing, because I've only heard him talk about Canadian history before now. You would never expect that. Canadian, okay. Sorry, not that he's Canadian. But that he's, like, only a Canadian, like, he only talks about Canadian history and not, like, anything else, especially D&D. So, I mean, as a teacher, because my teachers always talked about, I went to U.S. public schools. So there are days where my teachers would talk about politics or like whatever the heck is going on in their lives. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. That was a long outro. If you watched it all, I appreciate it. Hey folks, lyarri here. There's Jake in the background. If you want, remember to follow on YouTube and follow on Twitch. There should be stuff here, that's why I'm pointing. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And oh no. He likes to sleep on his clothes. Everything okay? Yeah, so I'm gonna let him get to it. Thank you so much for watching.